Delta Corp, that's clearly the stock that has been hogging the limelight of late with respect to the GST concerns that saw market cap erosion. Results that came out that have been strong. Let's clear the air on the road ahead for the company, what the implications are, the strategy ahead. And joining in right now, we've got Hardik Dhebar. He's the Group CFO at Delta Corp. Hardik, thank you so much for taking time out and being with us on ET Now. Lots to chat about, but I'm going to begin with the numbers because it's been a very healthy set that the company has delivered in Q1 in terms of your revenue growth, your profits at about 68 crore rupees. What have been some of the key drivers and what's the outlook on your margins?
Good morning, Avan. Thank you for having us on the show this morning. Yes, like you would have read, it is the highest ever quarterly earnings that Delta has reported in terms of the revenue. It's a 338 crore revenue that we have recorded and a 68 crore profit, which also happens to be amongst the highest. And all this is backed by, a very, very strong demand in terms of people flocking to Goa, people coming to Goa, and all the other infrastructure developments that the state has seen, whether it's the new airport, the new road connectivity, etc., etc. But mind you, I would like to also say that there is a lot of contribution by the casino industry and the gaming industry in all this development at the state level.
Sure, goes without saying. Hardik, hi, morning. Let's address the elephant in the room then. What happens to your financial performance, your margins with the 28% GST now? How's business going to be impacted?
Hi, Aisha. Good morning. First of all, let me clarify one thing that, we as Delta Corp, right from 1st of July 2017 have been paying a 28% GST. So in terms of the rate, there is no change or no impact as far as the rate is concerned. Yes, there is a certain methodology that is being contemplated and is being recommended at this point of time, but it is still not yet in force, and it will take its due course in terms of whatever legalization required to be done before this can come into force. Now, let us understand what is the ask. First of all, one has to understand what is GST being levied on. Is it goods or is it service? Now, let us decipher both the things. If you consider a exchange of chips, and please mark my words, I'm saying exchange, because this, at the stage of inception, what the government is asking, there is no transaction and the goods are not being sold or are not being bought by anybody. So this is one part. So if there is no transaction, how can there be a tax on that stage? That is one. Two, even if I assume for a moment that that is a transaction, then it's by law in the act itself that if you charge GST on a sale, when the goods are returned, the GST needs to be offsetted. So that is second part. Third part, if this is not a good and if it is a service, then the incidence of service at the initial exchange has not even happened, because any person walking in and exchanging currency for chips need not necessarily use them. He may just keep it in his pocket, roam around in the casino, come back after a few hours and give the chips back to me, and that's it. So where is the service provided? The service provision only happens when a person starts using those chips and at the end of the gameplay comes back and returns the chips, where I give him back the currency that he had given to me in the initial stage. So all this, and that's where the transaction actually completes and the service provision actually gets completed. So my incidence of service gets completed then. So in either of the cases, where do you levy GST? That is one. Secondly, internationally, there are about 35 countries in the world who have been having gaming and casino industries for over 5, 6, 7 decades. And have GST implemented even before India got implemented the GST Act. All these countries have been levying a GST on a certain way. And to add to that, India, when we were in the pre-GST era regime and immediately thereafter till this confusion sort of arose, we have been paying GST, we have been assessed for entertainment tax and commercial taxes on the very same methodology that has been prevailing world over. So as to, we don't really understand. And lastly, the amount of attention this matter has gained And the fact that there is so much of representation, whether it is by the online gaming industry, whether it is by the industry bodies, and for the first time, even the investor community has gone out and said that this seems to be slightly irrational. And more so, like I made a statement earlier, that the casino gaming industry has contributed a lot to the development of the state of Goa and to the state of Sikkim to that extent. The state governments of these states also have voiced their concerns and have said that something needs to be done and the entire thing needs to be relooked at as far as they are concerned, because a lot of contribution to their exchequer comes in from this industry.
Okay, so fair point. So let me have a follow-up question. And I'm going to address perhaps this question for our viewers who want to understand that if the law is implemented, and I'm going to take the clock back here, when the stock fell, your shareholders are worried that if the law is implemented in totality, whatever we understand, and we also understand that the government right now is perhaps in no mood to relent. If this is implemented in the totality, what changes? Is this bad news? Is this really bad news? Or this is something which you can deal with?
So on the face of it, Nikunj, it is bad news because it is not practical and logical to implement what the government is asking. Having said that, you have tracked Delta and we have interacted on multiple occasions, and we as a company have been prone to hikes, whether it is on the entry tax that was being levied at Goa, the license fees that we paid, and finally, the nail in the coffin, if I would say, was increasing my entertainment tax from 15%, which I was paying in the pre-GST era, going to 28%. And fortunately, the business and the industry has been so resilient that we have taken that into the stride. Having said that, this doesn't mean that this methodology or this proposal that the government wants us to implement, one, we don't know what they are intending, what is the methodology of implementation, how do they want us to implement it. I don't think the fine print is yet out. So I think, well, we will have to manage it, we will manage it, but the fact of the matter is this is not the right way to do it. And I think, like I said, with the state governments in tow, in the entire industry and the investing community in tow, I think the government is very rational. And if I was to quote the finance minister, she very clearly said that it is not the intent of the government to harm the industry. It is not the intent of the government to shut down any industry. And if that is the intent, and which I genuinely believe is the intent, I am very hopeful and confident that something positive and something amicable, mutually acceptable will emerge out of this.
Just painting a scenario here, Hardik, what if it were to be the worst case? Because, like you're saying, the finance minister categorically said that the intent is not to, pull the shutters down on the businesses. But they also said that there is going to be no rethinking on the 28% GST on online gaming. What happens in that case? How do you go about doing business then? I mean, would it be shutters down?
Let us understand from a Delta perspective. And thanks for bringing that up. And I quote in one of the interviews, I heard that the unanimous decision as far as the rate or the methodology is concerned was as far as the online gaming is concerned. So I think the offline gaming or the casino industry, there definitely didn't happen to be consensus, as it appears to be from the statements being made. On the online side, I think, again, like I said, it is very, very illogical, because on one hand, you have the MeitY, which is telling that we are a platform, these are a service, these are service providers. So even by that definition, to charge something on the face value of the bet doesn't seem to be logical. And like I heard someone else saying one day, which is the example that I have been using in the past, that if I go to a brokerage house on the stock exchange and I bought a 1 crore worth of Reliance, is the turnover of the brokerage house 1 crore, or the brokerage that I'm going to pay on that 1 crore rupee worth of shares that I bought of Reliance? Now, that's the simple answer that the government also needs to answer. If they think that it's 1 crore, then why is the brokerage houses paying only on the brokerage that they are charging? So that is very clear. As far as the offline gaming is concerned, and for Delta's perspective, 85 to 90%, or roughly about 85, 87% of our business is offline. And therefore, yes, there will be an impact from the online perspective, but I think for the larger business and the bigger chunk of our business, I think we should be good.
So Hardik, now will this lead, the next obvious question is that even when it comes to the monetization of the 550 crore rupee Delta Tech IPO, this is going to lead to delays in this. Is there any sort of a timeline? Is it going to be completely reworked? What's the game plan?
Well, Avan, we obviously have to wait and watch till clarity emerges, because while we were completely ready and we would have been able to do a lot of events and actions, but with this uncertainty looming and we don't know as to when this clarity will emerge, I think the IPO will have to wait till there is clarity, because the investing community obviously would want to have clarity before they make a investing decision.
And just to reconfirm, the online gaming business contribution to your total revenues is at about 15% and nil impact to the bottom line, correct?
Absolutely correct.
Hardik, what changes in the interim till the time there is a yes, no in this entire decision making? I mean, let's say we are talking about what we've discussed are the numbers for the last quarter, but we are in the current quarter, which is the July quarter. What happens immediately now? I mean, business, transaction, mood, what happens to you?
So on the offline with Nikunj, there is no change. We continue doing business the way we were doing. In fact, my July traction shows a trajectory which is in line with what I have, in fact, better than what I have reported for the first quarter. And this is the quarter which for Delta has always been the best quarter, as we all know. Nothing changes till like I said, the notification, the act is brought out and it is brought into force. And till then, we have been paying the GST. We have been assessed in the past, right from 2017 till 22 and 23 as we speak. So I think it's business as usual as far as we are concerned, that we are going strong. On the online side, there are two things that have happened. In addition to the GST, obviously, there are other regulation changes that have happened. So, the sector is trying to settle with that. And eventually, like I said, sanity is and will prevail. And we definitely believe that a positive solution will emerge out of the whole thing.
Happens, and really appreciate your time. So glad you could join us. I know in between meetings and you took time out to join us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Nikunj.